Hi everyone, good morning. So I think last time we have discussed about variables, and that too we have talked something about this TF-hash types and all. So let us try to discuss this variable type, what you are trying to declare in the example. I think this one is also done. Just want to recall this particular topic. Okay. So we have seen list format and map format. Okay. So list format in the sense if you want to write some multiple values, a default values for multiple values of your variable, then this is called as a list format, list of strings. So you can see the type what I have written, list of string. This is actually a string. If you are writing only one parameter here, we could have declared this as a string. Okay, but you want to write multiple values here, and it is in the form of list. So it means you are opening the bracket and closing the bracket, and you are writing multiple values with a comma separated. Okay, so this is called as list of strings. Okay, in this way if you want to write a list of strings, and this is what we have to do. Okay, and then next one is nothing but map. Okay, which we also call it as object, which is nothing but you will write some list of strings. Okay, that is also not a list of strings, actually map of strings. Map in the sense what, key value pair. It is called as key value pair mapping. So here it is just a value, but here we will have a key and value, okay, which is separated through equal to. And every data which you write, we have written multiple entries here. Name is equal to web app, environment is equal to dev, type is equal to application. So if you want to declare like this your default values, then we have to write in the form of map. Then you have to tell to your Terraform that this variable is nothing but map of list. Okay, so that is, sorry, map of string. That is what we have to specify. And then you can declare, call it as like however you want. Last time I have shown you some examples with when you're trying to use list, how to call it, how to call your list of variables, okay, through index value. Okay, so always the index will start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay, so whichever value you want to call, that value you can specify here. Okay, and the map I have shown you example related to tags. So how you can, instead of writing this particular tags, all the three tags here, you have declared in the variable, and when you're calling this particular variable, automatically it will display the tags what you have written over there. Okay, so that is what it is. So if you go back here, I think I have shown so many examples. Let me try to, okay, yes. So I have seen instance, you can say I've written like this, the tags, right? So if I execute Terraform plan, let me show you how this tag looks. All the tags are written in the map format in the variable, and when I'm calling that variable, it has to print as it is, how the tags are written. Okay, which is called as map of strings. If you scroll up, you can see there. Okay, so which is adding in a proper way. So you have to decide first what kind of values you are writing there and what kind of data you are trying to store. You have to decide
Hi,
whether it is
Sudhir.
a string. Sorry. Yeah. Hi. I can hear you. Sorry, I was speaking on mute, I guess. Sorry, guys. Okay. So last time we discussed about this, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I didn't saw it. So this particular tag is getting removed.
Oh,
Now you can hear me, right?
yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm able to hear.
So the tags what I want to declare, instead of writing, when I have this multiple types, right? So key value pairs and all, it is always recommended to write in a map format. Map in the sense it is nothing but key value pair in variables. Okay. So that is what we have done. So let us go with the next example. Okay. So next variable type, that is nothing but variable validation rules. Okay. So validation rules in the sense I have told you we can add a condition to your variables. What are those conditions called out? Okay, let's say we will take a simple example. We can write so many methods, we can call so many functions actually, but I have took only few examples here in order to add some validation. So validation in the sense simple. What are the variable you are trying to add? Okay, when you're passing some value to that particular variable, it has to pass that particular validation. It has to pass the validation. Validation in the sense, let's say I have written some particular variable which is called as image ID for this example. The image ID always should start with AMI hyphen. If you see any image without starting with that AMI hyphen, I don't want that image. If you have intentionally passed it, it will reject. It will reject with the error saying that the image ID must be a valid AMI ID starting with this one, so that a person can understand. Okay. So here you can say I have written some particular function called substring. What is a substring? Var dot image id. So what are the value you have stored in this particular image underscore id, whether you are passing through default, whether you are passing through tfvars, or whether you are passing through auto tfvars, whatever it is, the value will be picked here, and it will see the length of starting 4 characters. Why? Because you have written 0 comma 4. 0 comma 4 in the sense 0 1 2 3, totally 4 characters. So starting 4 characters looks like this. Means what are the starting 4 characters which I get from this variable value should be equal to this particular starting AMI hyphen. If this is matching, this validation is passed. What is the first validation? We have written end operation here. This is a validation block, right? So in the validation nested block, I have written condition equal to length of that particular image ID should be greater than 4. Okay, which means that it should be greater than 4 characters. What are the character it is? I want more than 4, and that particular image should be starting 4 characters should be AMI hyphen. If these two conditions are matched, then it will proceed further. If any one of the condition is not matched, why? Because I have written end operation here. If you have written or operation or something like that, then it will check either this or this. Whichever one passes first, that will be treated as condition passed. Okay, then it will proceed further. Okay, in this situation, here the condition is end operation. So end operation in the sense both the conditions has to be passed. If any one of the condition is not passed, it will fail, and it will fail with the error saying that this particular output will get printed. So by looking at the output, you can understand what happened, what mistake I have done. Okay, so it is always recommended to write a condition which is mandate and error message which you need to explain in a proper way, so that the person can understand, like, if I have done some mistake while passing the value, what mistake I have done. Okay, so that is really important. When you, this will help you for whom, when you start troubleshooting it where went wrong, this parameter or this error message will help you a lot in understanding where you have done the mistake. Okay, so always better to write in a proper way of writing this message what you're trying to write for the error. Okay, so let us see this simple. I'll just add this logic to the variables, that's it. Okay, so if I go to the variables, let us do intentionally a mistake, and then we will say how to overcome that. Where is this instance? Oh, where is that instance ID? It is not there. Here it is. Okay, so let me remove this, and let me copy this. I have to change the name, image name, right? AMI or image. Well, let's say in the instance.tf file, how I called it AMI name. So AMI name, AMI underscore name. Okay, so this is what I have done. Let me give some space, one line space, so that it will be bit understandable. Okay, so in this way we have written, right? So here I have written some nested block. What is a nested block? It is a validation block where I have written the condition and the message what it has to print if the condition is not satisfied. Okay, if this condition is satisfied, it will go ahead. Okay, so right now I will give intentionally, I will do some mistake. Okay, save it. Terraform FMT. If there is some styling, nothing is there. Terraform validate. Okay, I did some mistake. What it is trying to say, invalid variable validation condition. Okay, it is telling me that the condition of the variable my name can only refer to the variable itself using var underscore name. So the mistake what I've done is here the name which I've written, right, it is not proper. The mistake is so simple, ami underscore name. Okay, and here also it should be ami underscore name. That is a mistake what I've done. So let's save this and come out. And now if I execute Terraform validate, let's see what happens. Okay. So it is passed. So now what are the changes I have done is a valid one. Earlier what I've done, I have changed the name of my variable, but when I'm calling that particular variable name in my condition, it is not the name what I'm using. Whatever I copied from the documentation, I kept that name as it is. So that's the reason which went in a mistake. Okay. So I corrected it. After that, the validation has been passed. So now if I execute Terraform plan, sorry, plan. So now you can see it is prompting for AMI. So let me give some wrong AMI, which is not starting with AMI, that AMI parameter. So let me go there, AMI. I'll go to EC2. There itself you can see, right? I just want to show a few things that, so that's the reason. I'm not giving any value. So AMIs, you can see maybe some images. You can see some AMIs are starting with a name called ZS9 or something like that, right? It depends. Or let's say AMI is also starting with some AMI. Yeah, AMI name is this and AMI ID is something like this. So what we are trying to use like AMI ID. Okay. So my AMI ID should start with AMI hyphen. That is my intention actually. Okay. So this is the first thing. And the length of this AMI should be greater than 4 characters, which is like okay for me. Obviously it will be greater than 4 characters, but still I'm validating it. Okay. So now I will give some AMI. Let me give like this instance. Okay. Launch instance. And instead of giving, let's say I will give the ID, but see what mistake I will try to do. So the value which I gave here, oh, okay. Here I'll try to give some mistake like, oh, I could have copied this in a very different location. Okay. Yes, let me do one mistake, which is nothing but instead of AMI, I will add AVI. Okay. Okay. That's, you can see that image ID value must be a valid AMI ID starting with AMI. You can see the error message what it got printed. Okay, what are the error messages I gave in the error message section of the nested block called variable validation? There you can see it is printing my error message. So from that I understood that okay, I did some mistake called instead of passing this AMI hyphen, I passed some image which is not a valid one. Okay, so that's where I realized that this is not the appropriate image. Okay, so in this way we can add a logic to your values what you are passing. Okay, by adding these conditions. So now I will copy, and if I paste it here, it will validate. And now this condition is satisfied. Why? Because it is starting with AMI hyphen and the length of this AMI is greater than 4 characters, which is like fine. So that's the reason it is proceeding further and it is trying to create my instance. Okay. So in this way, we can add logics. If you want to read about Terraform, just let me open that. If you want to read about Terraform validations, okay, let's see that. So we can see the validation condition. Length, we have length, subest here. These are nothing but your conditions, functions actually. Okay, so Terraform, this is called as functions. Okay, let me open that. Where is this? Can function. Okay. So there are so many functions which you can write. Okay. This is variables I've already told about, talked about it actually. Validation you can see here. Okay, we can add can is like regular expressions. Okay, this is the example which I took actually. Okay, so in this way we can add a condition which is saying that can function to detect such errors. What is that errors? If the failure of an expression is the basis of the validation decision. So here itself we are adding some regular expression. If you want to add it, we can add like this. So for everything we have a functions. Okay, so can function, length function. You can see here this is called as length function. This is called as ft substring function. This is can function, regular function. Okay, so regex. So there are so many functions which you can declare. Okay, if you want to read more about the functions, Terraform functions, you can just search for that. Okay, you can just see try, map, chop, contains. There are so many functions. Okay, so we have took so simple example actually. Let's say string functions. Okay, you can say regex. Okay, you can see the format chomp. Okay, and then we have numeric collection, file and system. Okay, type conversion. Okay, and then data and time. Okay, encoding function, numeric function. Okay, length, long. Okay, string function over here. Okay, so in this way we can use any sort of functions in order to add a logic to our validation. Okay, it doesn't mean that only these kind of functions are allowed. No, it depends upon situation what logic you are trying to add. Okay, for this logic length function and substring function is more than enough, so that's the reason we have written that. Okay, so in this way you can read this documentation for functions and their validations. Okay, so now let me go back to this. Where is the terminal? Yes. Okay. So I'm not executing this actually. I just want to show you in the plan itself. Now the next variable type what we can declare is, let's see. Okay. So this is all about your custom validation rules for variables. Okay. The documentations are written here, references, functions and custom rules, how to add it. It is clearly written in the documentation. Okay. So with this, we have completed our input variables validation rules. Okay, and then we have protect input variables. How will you protect? What does it mean? Protect in the sense, if you want your data variables to be sensitive, let's say you are storing some particular password or some particular certificate or some particular token that you are trying to store in the variables, and that variables, let's say you are trying to use some CI/CD operations. So CI/CD operation, it is showing you the variables information as well. So when it is printing the variables related information, I don't want few variables to not to print any value in the terminal. It should utilize, but it should not get print on the terminals or standard output. So in order to avoid those kind of sensitive informations, we can use a parameter called sensitive is equal to true. Okay, so there might be some sensitive variables which should not display the value when we run in input, output, etc. while executing commands, Terraform plan or Terraform apply, whatever it is. When using environment variables for Terraform, we will store the details on the terminal and we can view details by running the history command. Obviously, when you're storing, see, variables, when you're trying to store some as environment variables, always be careful that sensitive related information don't try to save it in environment variables. Why? Because on that terminal, if a person has logged in and if he is executing some history command, he can see that values. Okay, so that is also not recommended in a proper direction to deploy. Terraform will redact these values which are marked as sensitive in the command output and log files and raise an error when it detects that they will be exposed by another way. Okay, if this particular sensitive information is set to true, sensitive parameter is set to true, and if someone is trying to expose these particular values, that will generate some error. Okay, note, but password details in this example can be seen in the Terraform state file. So we have to understand that though we have given this sensitive is equal to true, okay, which means that when you execute Terraform plan or Terraform apply, it is printing some output, right? There it will show you a sensitive information. For example, let me let's say variables so that you will understand. Okay, I don't want to print this availability zone where it is getting, or let's say this one. Let me try to use this. Here, let me give the default value as well. Okay, done. So I don't want this AMI to be printed. Okay, so let's see what I will do. Sensitive is equal to true. This is what we have written here in this example, but a different scenario. But here in my condition, I don't want to print AMI. Let's say now if I execute Terraform, earlier it will show. Why? Because if you scroll up a bit, you can see your AMI is visible in the Terraform plan. If you have executed Terraform apply also, first it will print like this. Then it will show you what it is trying to create. Sorry, what it will create, it will show you the output. So I don't want this to be printed. Okay, it should hide I want to hide this information. So how to do that? So I've already written it in the variable section. Okay, sensitive is equal to true. Let's see about this. So Terraform plan. Okay, it got printed. Let me see whether AMI information is printed on the terminal or not. You can see it is showing in the brackets like sensitive. Okay, so which means that this information will never be known. But if you look at this particular point, what it is trying to say, but password details or any value, okay, in this example can be seen in terraform.tf state file, which should be protected as well. Okay, so what though it is not able to see shown in the terminal, okay, whether it is the plan, so this plan will try to create some this plan will not create any terraform state file actually, but when you are trying to execute terraform apply, okay, it will store what it is trying to create, so what has been created on the target provider. That information will be stored in the tf state file, right, terraform state file. Now when this is getting stored into the terraform state file, what will happen to that sensitive information, what I'm trying to not to print on the terminal, that information will be shown in the terraform state. If you want to see that sensitive information, if you try to open the terraform tf state file, you can see the information. Okay, so that is what they are trying to say. You should protect that particular file as well. From terraform side we cannot protect. By using some ansible vault, sorry, any vault, HashiCorp vault and all, you can protect that particular file as well. Okay, so that's how they are trying to say. Now see, it is telling you that not to show the information, right? In the terraform apply also, it has shown that it is sensitive, right? Sensitive information, that's the reason it is not able to display. That is also fine. But what happened to my tf state file? Let's see, terraform state file. If you scroll up and if you try to see your instance related information, okay, the schema is like too big actually. You can see the AMI details I can see in the terraform state file. Similar to that also password. Okay, I can see in this. Okay, so this is the problem with, though we have this protection, but still you have to be careful with the terraform tf state file. Okay, you have to explicitly protect this particular file. Okay, so this is what we need to do. Okay, if you want to see that sensitive information, you can open your terraform tf state file. That's the reason we store this terraform tf state files in the remote location, right, not in your local system. Okay, where you are executing terraform init commands. Okay, so that is also one of the reason. Okay, when you have some sensitive information, it should not be visible to everyone. It should be protected. Though it will not show in the CI/CD operations on your terminal, or if you are executing manually also, it will not show you. Okay, and even the tf state file is not stored in your local system, it is stored in the remote location. Then obviously the person cannot see that password, right? So that's how it is. In that way we have to plan our protection. Okay, coming to the next point. Okay, so this is how it is, like sensitive information. Okay, then we have the last topic related to variables is nothing but file function. Okay, so this file function is nothing where we have already seen it actually. If you, file function is simple, we have seen so many, right? Length function, sub str function and all, which I told you. File function is something where instead of writing the data of this particular variable value here itself, okay, we are doing like this. Okay, we are writing a file function and you will specify the file name. So wherever you are executing this, wherever you are storing your Terraform configuration files, there we have to store this particular script. Okay, for example, let us try to do this. Here I think I already written it. You can see this nginx install.sh. How I am calling this particular file in my specific resource. Let's say this particular file should be called in instance creation. So when I'm calling it, in order to call those particular files, I need to use file function. Okay. So file is a function. In the brackets, you need to write your file name actually. Okay. It is better to store your file wherever you have stored your Terraform configuration files. Okay. So in this way, we can try to use that particular file function as well. Just I want to tell about that, since we have discussed so many times, but I have not specifically mentioned about that particular file function. Okay. In this way, we need to write. So with this, we have completed our Terraform input variables. Now, what is a priority? Right? I have to understand that. See, if my value is written in multiple locations, which value will be picked? Okay. So what is a priority? So the priority, the Terraform loads variables in the following order, with later source taking precedence over earlier ones. Okay. This will be the least priority environment variables. After that, the TF-vars will be the next priority. And after that, the JSON file. See, the file can be written in the normal file or it's a JSON file. Okay. If it is present, this is the next priority. After that, the next priority level is nothing but auto TF-vars, which you write auto TF-vars or auto TF.json. This will be having the next priority. So which means that if you write this, the environment variables will not get picked. Okay, if you have written this, which means that this environment variables will not get picked. But here, if you have written this, it will not pick the values from this environment variables as well as from the TF-vars. It will pick only from the auto TF-vars. That is the next priority level. And the last and high priority is nothing but the variables which you pass in the -var option when you are executing Terraform CLI. Okay, always the CLI will have high priority. Okay, wherever you write, if you write some value in the Terraform executing the CLI, that will be picked automatically. Okay, so that is a main priority of your this particular values. -var or -f -var -file. I told you, right, if you have not written terraform.tf-vars file, then if you have written some with some other name like sudhir.tf-vars, if you want to pick that particular file, you need to use var-file. Okay, this is the variable which you need to use when you're passing your commands, Terraform plan or Terraform apply. Okay, so these are the priorities. Okay, so this will be having some priorities, and this is how we do. Okay, Terraform input variables I have written like what are the topics we are going to discuss, the Terraform variables diagram as well. I think you already know about this. Okay, this is the diagram. We have already discussed about this, actually means like we have already discussed about Terraform input variables. We have discussed about basic example, pass variables while executing CLI commands, override default using this environment variables, variable definition files, -f var file, auto, list and map, custom variables, sensitive input variables using vars. These are the types which we have already discussed. Now the next topic is nothing but, let me minimize this actually. Next topic is nothing but output values. So output values are something where a module or a root configuration files for a resource creation are used to print and return values. Let's say you are trying to create some resource on the specific provider. Let's forget about the provider what you are using. When you are trying to create some resource, okay, through Terraform configuration file or through Terraform module, okay, when you are trying to create, after creation I want to print the value of that particular resource, some value of that particular resource, then we have to use output values. Okay, so simple statement. For example, I'm trying to create some instance and I want to print the public IP and the private IP of that instance once it is created successfully. If I want to print that, I have to use output values. Okay, so in order to declare the output values, so this is the simple statement of your output values. Okay, let us see with examples. Okay, So output values, let us go through the readme profile. Okay, so Terraform output values are like the return values, like okay, I've written in multiple things, right? So let me correct this statement. Terraform output values are like written, okay, written like values on any other tools, okay, other tools or languages. In language, if you remember the Python language or something, we write a return statement. Okay, for a function we will write some return statement, or for the class you will write a return statement. That statement is equivalent to your like what you are trying to use in the output values. Okay, next, a root module can use output values to print the certain value of the CLI which you already know, okay, which have already passed that particular statement. Now the child module can also use output to expose a subset of other resources or bits as well. So which means that, let's say there is another child module. So module in the sense, a bunch of Terraform configuration files. Okay, writing as a template, that is called as module actually. So when you are writing another module, okay, and you have declared your output values, this value can be used as an input to the next module. That is what they are saying. Simple. Okay. When you are using remote state, root module output can be accessible by other configurations via this particular statement. Okay. So while using the remote state, root module outputs can be accessed by other configuration via Terraform remote state data source. Okay, we'll look at that as well. Okay, so Terraform apply the display only output of the root module, like this we already know. Okay, so let us see how to print that statements. Okay, so let us see how to print the whole output and how to print a output of a specific value. Okay, so both types we will try to see. Okay, and how to print in a JSON format, or it's like additional things what you want. Okay, sensitive informations also can be added, where if you don't want to print the sensitive information but still you want to declare the output variables, output values, then we can use a parameter called state sensitive, how we declared in our input variables, right? So similarly in our output values also, if you want to declare but if you don't want to print on the console, then we can use this parameter called sensitive. Okay, so let us see that output.tf. You can see here, once the instance has been created, I'm trying to print the private IP and public IP. Okay, so this private IP and public IP will be fetched from the resource created in the instance.tf. How AWS underscore instance dot web dot, here it will print some, it will, well it is, these are called as variables. I told you there is some other parameter called attributes. So that attributes can be used in order to print your output. Okay, for example, let me show you that. AWS instance Terraform. Okay. Now, if you open this particular resource, here we have arguments and attributes, right? Arguments are nothing but what you can pass while creating that resource. Okay. What you can pass while creating that particular resource to control or to enable or disable some particular functionalities. But whereas attributes are something where you can use in order to print the values. Okay. Let's say once a resource has been created, I want to call something. I want to print the public IP, private IP, or the ARN, or the instance state, whatever I want to print. Okay, if I want to print that, you need to see the attribute section for this particular resource and see which values you can use. Okay, which attribute you can use. I want to print the DNS name of my instance, so public DNS attribute I can use. And I want to print the public IP of my instance, so I can use an attribute called public IP. So that is what I have declared here: private IP, public IP, and public DNS. Okay, in this way we are trying to call it. Now the instance, once it is created, it will show you what it is trying to print. Okay, so that's how it is. So this is called as output block, and we have written some body where we are trying to value and the description. Okay, so let us declare that. I'll take this, copy. Now output.tf. This is easy name for me to understand by looking at the file. Okay, so now let's save this. Okay, let's execute Terraform fmt, just okay, Terraform validate. I don't want to see any mistakes after it is getting created. So there might be some mistake as expected actually. Why? Because I have written in an improper way. AWS underscore web. Okay. Dot private IP, public IP. What is my instance? What I've written? It is web only. Okay, that's fine. Then what is a mistake? Let's re-execute. Okay, missing row instance key. Okay. Count index. Okay, I've written some index, right? Count. This count I don't want to use right now. Okay, because I need to pass some index values if that is the case. So let me keep it simple. Okay, let me do some changes. I'm removing this particular multiple types list and all. Okay, no more needed. Okay, done. Strings, this is tags are fine only for this actually. Okay, variable, this is also not needed for me right now because I'm not creating multiple instances. So let me go to the instances. This is fine, this is fine, this is also fine. Now Terraform fmt, if any files modified, Terraform validate. All my configurations are correct, so I'm good to go, right? So Terraform plan. Our intention is to see whether output values are getting printed or not. In Terraform plan, it will not print. Why? Because, let me show you. If we're trying to create the resource for the first time, if the resource is already created, see, the resource I've already created. So that's the reason it is printing my output values. Okay, you can see the private IP, public IP, and this URL. Okay, it is getting printed. Why? Because this resource is already created. Now if I execute Terraform, apply hyphen auto upload. Why it is showing you like this? Because we have done some modifications. See, additional like instance what it has been created, it will get deleted. Okay, so that is what it is trying to do. And here let us try to get upload. So let it get completed, and then you can see in the output it is printing your IP address. Okay, is that it is. So in this way, if you want to print the values and all, and this is how we have to call output values. Okay, so you need to call your instant resource type dot resource name dot that attribute. Okay, attributes, if you don't know how to utilize, then open the documentation of that particular resource, go to the attribute section and see what you want to utilize from this after the resource has been created. Okay, so this is called as output values. Now if I want to print an output of a specific resource, okay, let's say for example here you can see, right, they have print only that particular specific output. Okay, then what I can do, Terraform output. If you want to print only outputs, so where it will call these particular values, it is already saved in your Terraform TF state file. So it will get from there and it will show you the output. Okay, that's one thing. Now if you want to print a specific value output, let's say I want to print only public IP. You can see it prints only your public IP address. Okay, in this way we can use. Um, if you want to see more, Terraform output hyphen hyphen help. You can see if you want to print this output in a JSON format also, you can do that. It is not that interesting for us, but still if you want to print in a JSON output, you can see that it is printing in a JSON output format. It will show you some more information. Is it sensitive? False. What type of it is? String type. Okay, so that is what it is printing. Now well, it is getting printed. I want this particular public IP should not get printed, means it should be a sensitive information. Then how I need to do it? See this. I just created this particular entry and I've given the name called true. So sorry, the boolean value as true. Okay. So what does it mean? Now when you're executing Terraform plan or Terraform apply, it should not print this particular public DNS. Okay, so let's execute Terraform plan. Let's see whether it is getting printed or not. Public DNS. So it is doing it. It is trying to fetch the information from the state file. Okay, what are the resources are managed. Now you can see here, where is that output got not printed. See, changes of output, one change, attribute hidden. You can see here. You have added some hidden entry. That's it. That is what it is trying to say. Now if I execute Terraform, apply, nothing will do. One change, attribute hidden. So it is telling you that one particular value is hidden actually. You can see here, this is printed as sensitive. Other values are printed. You can see the public IP and private IP. These got printed, but this one you can see it is printed as sensitive. It is not printing the original value what it is being created, right? So in this way, if you want to block in printing this as an output, yes, this value is there in the Terraform state file. So if you try to see in the Terraform state file, this value will be there. Okay. But when you're executing the commands, it will not display. That's the only change. You can see this is there. Public DNS value is there, but it will not print in your console. That's how it is. Okay, so that is the intention of using this sensitive parameter. Okay, so with this we have completed our output values. Okay, so simple it is. Okay, output values, and then we have other parameter called local values. So local values in the sense, if you have some particular values that need to be repeated in multiple places, okay, like tags. Let's say I have some tags that should be added for all the resources whatever I create. Okay, then what I need to do I need to add this particular, what do we say, tag section in each and every resource? No, I want to simplify my job. Okay, so in order to simplify my job of adding this particular Terraform configuration files, then I have seen that there is a concept called locals. So what is the benefit of this locals? So whatever you want to write, you will just write. It's the same way. Okay, locals, then you will write your concatenation. Actually, we have written concatenation here, but you will write some list of tags. Okay, now wherever you want to write a tags, instead of writing those whole tags, you will call this particular local value. Automatically, all these tags will be added to that particular resource, whichever resource you are trying to create. So that's a benefit of using this locals. If you have some repetitive code or some piece of snippet that need to be written in multiple places, then it is recommended to use local values, but it should not be used repetitively for all the use cases. It is not for all the cases. Only if it is especially needed, like this scenario, then you have to go for local values. Okay. So this is what the points I have written here. This is one of the example. Let us see a simple example for us. The ability to easily change the values in a centralized place is the key advantage of local values. Now you have written the tags in multiple resource section. You have written so many Terraform files: incident.tf, output.tf, vpc.tf, subnet.tf, securitygroup.tf. So many things you have written. For all the files, you no need to go and modify the values if you really need in that particular situation. Now we have called our values in a local values. There we have declared our tags, and that's where if you modify there, it will reflect in all the places wherever it is getting called. So that is the simplest way of declaring your common repetitive task. Okay. So let's try to see the example. So let me try to write local values. This is in this way I've written in two types. You are writing your tags in a variables here itself. Where is it? Sorry. Yeah, you can write your tags in a tag variable and you can call it in the local values. That's one thing. Or else you can write your locals like this. For example, let me comment out this line. If you want to comment multiple lines as I discussed, forward slash star, and then here also we need to write star forward slash. Okay, this is how written. Now this one I want to uncomment. Now what are the resource we try to create now? So this will get printed. Let me try to add some spaces. Okay, so that it looks something better. Okay, so now we can see this. So in this way we have written this locals and the common tags. That is a name which I give. Common tags, let's say type. Okay, let's say I've written something like called application. Okay, web application or just an application type. Okay, environment is web application. Okay, the name is nginx-server. These are the tags which I added. Now if you take this and add it in your variables.tf. So I've written some common tags, right? So now let me remove this. Okay. Now if you go to the top and you can see your declaration is common underscore tag, right? Local.common underscore tags. Now in the instance section, I've written only one file, I guess. Yeah, only instance. So that's fine. Here instead of calling this var dot like this variable name, we need to call now as locals dot common tags. Okay. So let's save this file. Now Terraform fmd. Okay. And then we need to write Terraform validate. Let's see whether we have done some mistakes or not. So something we have written common tags, locals. Just a second, I just want to see. Here I have written locals common underscore tags. This is perfect. Common tags. Okay. Let me write here. Okay. Here it is nothing but local. So let's say this. Come out of this, and now if I write Terraform validate, it should pass. Okay. Now if I write Terraform plan, I need to see all my tags which I have written in my local values. Okay. If that is picked, you're done. Okay. So try not to use this locals frequently. Why? Because if you write your values here in the variables and somewhere else, you will get confused. Okay. It is as per the best practice. It is recommended to write recommended to use locals as less as possible. Okay, only until unless it is required like this situation called tags, the common tag which I want to add for all the resource which I manage, then I need to use the common tag. Okay, through the help of locals. So now yeah, so now if I apply, all these particular tags will get applied. You can see this. Okay, so this is getting changed from web app to nginx-server. That's it. Now if I use Terraform plan, sorry, apply hyphen auto upload, I need to see this particular tags to my instance. So let me go there. If you see my existing instance, what tags it is having, let me show you. So right now it is having dev web app application. For environment, the value is dev. For the name, it is web app. For the type, it is application. Now the name I have changed. Instead of web app, I have changed it to nginx-server. Let's see whether it will get reflected or not. If it is reflected, then whatever we have written is a perfect way. So you can see it is done. Let me try to do a refresh. Let me select this and go to the tags. Now we can see web-application. Okay. So the environment, it got changed with web application because other values are same. So that's the reason it has not shown you whether it is changed or not. In this way, we can add the labels. So how many resources you try to control? For all the resources, if you want to add some common thing, it is better to declare in the locals. Okay, that's it. So this is all about your Terraform output values and locals. Okay, close this, close this. So with this, we have completed a syllabus related to variables and values. Okay. Any questions, guys? When you're practicing something, you can come up. Okay. So this is all about your variables. Okay.